I woke up to 12 bright orange violation tags zip-tied to my front door like it was Christmas for bullies, and I was the tree. For a few seconds I just stared, half asleep, trying to figure out if someone was pulling a prank. But then I saw the name stamped across every single page. Karen Ford, HOA President, the self-crowned queen of hedges and hatred. My stomach dropped. 12 violations. 12 reasons why she apparently owned me now. One of them said my mailbox was too tall. Another said my porch light was too warm. There was one for a chipped fence post. Another for my trash cans being visible for exactly 3 minutes after pickup. But the one that made my pulse thud said, unauthorized encroachment on HOA path. There was even a photo of the tiny gravel strip at the edge of my lawn where my property met the community walkway. It was absurd, it was invasive, and deep down I knew it was personal. I walked outside, still holding the stack of violations, and there she was, Karen, standing on the path with her clipboard like a sheriff in a bad western. She gave me that tight-lipped smile she saves for funerals. "We expect full compliance by Friday," she said, her tone as polished as her white sneakers. "Or we escalate." Then she turned and strutted off down the path like she was the queen of asphalt. That night I tried to reason with her. I wrote a calm email explaining the gravel had been there since before I bought the house. I even brought cookies to the HOA meeting, homemade double chocolate chip. Big mistake. The board sat there stone-faced while Karen read each violation out loud like bedtime stories for sociopaths. When she was done, she smiled and said, "Appeal denied." The cookies stayed untouched. After the meeting, I stood outside in the parking lot while my neighbors shuffled past. One whispered, "Don't upset her, she writes down license plates." Another just stared at the ground. I felt like I'd been dropped into some dystopian neighborhood cult where everyone pretended everything was fine just to survive. That night, pacing my kitchen, I could feel the anger buzzing in my ribs. 12 violations for what existing too loudly near her walkway. I felt small, helpless, and stupid for even trying to play nice. I almost threw the papers in the trash, but then I remembered something my dad used to say when things got unfair. Paper beats noise, kid. Always does. So I started digging for my own paper. I pulled out the dusty folder from my home purchase. Old survey maps, title documents, a note from the previous owner about a property line dispute years ago. Around midnight, I taped the survey to my wall and traced the lines with a flashlight. That's when I saw it. The HOA walkway wasn't fully on HOA land. According to the map, about 2 feet of the path actually ran inside my property line. 30 feet of it. My eyes widened. By morning I had a plan. If Karen wanted to weaponize rules, I could play that game, but legally, quietly. I called the county recorder's office to ask about the easement. Turns out the developer who built the neighborhood never officially recorded one for that section of the path. It was just used out of habit. A verbal agreement that expired decades ago, meaning Karen's precious path was sitting partly on my land. I smiled for the first time in days. I filed a boundary affidavit, applied for a permit to install a low garden fence along the exact surveyed property line, and hired a professional surveyor to mark it all with neon orange flags. Within a week, my yard looked like a construction site of vengeance. Karen noticed. Oh, she noticed. She marched up with her phone recording mumbling community standards under her breath. I waved at her, handed her a cup of lemonade, and said, "Hot day, huh?" She didn't answer, just glared at the flags like they'd personally insulted her haircut. When the fence posts arrived, I set them carefully exactly along the line, not 1 inch over. It didn't block the path technically, it just made it narrower. Too narrow, as it turned out, for Karen's beloved golf cart. The next morning she showed up again, this time shaking a fresh stack of violation notices at me like pom-poms. "You're obstructing HOA property," she snapped. "Remove this immediately." I kept my tone calm. "Show me the recorded easement giving the HOA the right to use my land," I said, "and I'll consider it." Her jaw dropped. Then she stormed off muttering something about precedent. Later that day, 2 police officers pulled up. Karen had called them. I nearly laughed out loud. Nothing says I'm right quite like dialing 911 on a fence. The officers were polite professional. They asked for my paperwork. I handed over the survey, the county filings, the permit. They studied them for a while, then turned to Karen. "Ma'am, do you have any document proving the HOA has an easement here?" Karen blinked rapidly. "We have rules." "Rules aren't deeds," the officer said simply. He handed the papers back to me. "You're within your rights." I swear I saw steam rising off Karen's neck as she stomped away, but she wasn't done. Oh no. Karen never stops until she either wins or implodes. A few days later, she organized an emergency HOA board meeting. In the middle of the cul-de-sac. Folding chairs, a megaphone, the whole show. Half the neighborhood turned up, drawn by the scent of chaos. Karen stood in front, waving her clipboard like a priest at a sermon. "This resident," she announced, pointing at me, "has repeatedly violated community standards and obstructed common property." She began reading my 12 violations again, this time with dramatic pauses like she was performing Shakespeare. People murmured. Phones came out recording. When she finished, I stepped forward, calm, steady. I held up my survey map and a small portable speaker. "Before we continue," I said, "I'd like you all to hear something." I pressed play. From the speaker came a calm voice from the county clerk's office. "There is no recorded easement for the walkway adjacent to that parcel." The crowd went dead silent. You could hear a lawn sprinkler ticking somewhere down the street. One of my neighbors, Tom, the guy who used to pretend not to see me at the mailbox, slowly raised his hand. "So, we've been using his land this whole time." A nervous laugh rippled through the group. Someone whispered, "Karen, did you know?" Her face went pale. "This is about community standards," she insisted, her voice quivering. I nodded. "Standards are fine, Karen. But when you fine people for your own mistake, that's not leadership. That's control." At that moment, the HOA inspector, an older man who'd been silent until now, cleared his throat. "Mrs. Ford," he said after reviewing the survey, "the path indeed extends into his property. These violations are invalid." Karen's mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes darted toward the crowd, but everyone was looking at me, not her. The inspector turned back to her. "Also, your golf cart shouldn't use this section anymore. It's unsafe." Someone in the crowd laughed. A kid yelled, "Karen got cart blocked." Laughter spread like wildfire. Phones recorded every second. Karen's lips trembled. She muttered something about calling her lawyer, then stormed off, the sound of her sandals slapping against the pavement like a slow applause. A week later, a letter arrived in everyone's mailbox. The HOA officially withdrew all 12 violations. The path would be rerouted to stay entirely on HOA property, and Karen was relieved of her duties pending review, which is HOA speak for she's out. Her golf cart sat unused in her driveway for days, looking like a sad orange pumpkin after Halloween. Neighbors started waving again. One even brought me those same cookies back, half laughing, half apologizing. "Sorry we didn't speak up," she said. I just smiled and said, "Better late than never." Now the new walkway curves neatly around my fence, exactly where the landlines say it should. I planted lavender along the edge, soft purple flowers that hum with bees in the evening. The air feels quieter, lighter. No more clipboards, no more 6 a.m. violation tags. Sometimes I see Karen walking the long way around, chin-high, eyes straight, pretending she doesn't notice me sitting on my porch with my coffee. But I know she does. Do I feel bad? Not really. I didn't yell. I didn't cheat. I just read. I checked lines. I played her game, but I used real rules, and that's the difference. She wanted to own me with paper, but in the end I owned the path with facts. Lesson: don't let loud people write your story. Sometimes the quietest proof wins the biggest war.